Hi there, I'm Sarah Thomas. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Teaching Without a Book. Today's workshop is part 3 of a free mini workshop that is broken into modules and delivered as a 3-week series. In this mini workshop, we've been learning about something called student learning pathways, which is a teaching strategy to support blended learning, personalized learning, and differentiation. Modules focused on an overview of what student pathways are, and we talked about some ways that they could be used or implemented into the classroom. We also built a student learning pathway step by step so that you could learn the skills and the strategies that it takes to create your own so that you can make them and use them in your own classroom. If you're just tuning in for the first time today and you've missed the last 2 modules, I recommend going back and watching Differentiating with Student Pathways Part 1 and Part 2 before watching today's video. So in this module, I'm going to talk about some of the ways that we can ensure our pathways are engaging and high impact for our students. We're going to revisit some of those tech tools that we used to create our pathway in the last module. So let's go ahead and get started.
So while I know that many of you are already pretty acclimated to Google Slides, I think there are a few things that we could still touch on. There are different ways that I boost the engagement with Google Slides and creating different things for my students, whether it be a pathway or just another activity in general. So to get to Google Slides, I'm going to go to my waffle and open up Slides. Choose a blank document. I like to start from scratch. And I will just quickly go and change this page setup so that it's from the wide screen to the standard, because that's just how I personally like to work with Google Slides. The first thing I want to show you is how to create a self-checking activity in Google Slides. If you remember, in the science pathway, we looked at an example of how to create a self-checking activity for our students when they had to complete the sort where they were sorting animals and plants into the different habitats. And then they were able to click a link that took them to an answer key so that they could then check their work. So I'm going to quickly just show you how to link different slides so that you can embed a self-checking tool for your students while they're working independently. As we build this, I'm not even going to put any content on here. I'm just going to label the slide. So this first slide is going to serve as what would be the activity for the students. I'm just going to label that student activity. So on this slide is where the kids are going to either complete a sort or fill out some sort of graphic organizer in a digital format, whatever it is that you want them to do. We're going to create a new slide, and this slide can be right in the same presentation if you would like it to be. Obviously, students need to be on the honor system because they would be able to shift back and forth between the 2 slides. In the science example, there were several slides of the pathway in between the actual activity and the answer key. So you'd have different slides or steps between the student activity and what will now become that answer key. So now we're going to link the student activity slide to its answer key, and I'm going to do that with some text, and you can use a picture, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, let's just do some simple text that we can hyperlink. Click here to check your work. And so maybe we just put that off to the side. So now we are going to create a hyperlink. You're going to highlight the words that you want to become your hyperlink. Now we go to the little link, and you can see here that I now have choices. Instead of pasting a web address into the box, I'm going to come down and I'm going to choose some of the slides that I'm working with. So slide number 1 is the one I'm on right now. So I'm going to go to the next slide because the next slide is the answer key. Now, if you had more slides in between, you would just simply scroll down and choose the slide number that you built your answer key on. So if the student activity was on slide number 3 and the answer key was on slide number 8, then you would just go ahead and choose slide number 8 to create the hyperlink. So now when they click on this, it's going to take them to the answer key. And so now they can check their work. But after they check their work, we want them to be able to get them back to the right step of the pathway so that they can continue to work through the pathway. So we're just going to do the same thing on this slide. We're going to create a hyperlink, return to your pathway. And we're just going to link this slide right back to the slide the activity's on. So when we go back to our link, we want to choose slide number 1 where the activity is, and now it's linked. So when they are done checking their work, they can click on that hyperlink and it takes them back to their activity. Now I'm going to show you how to create an interactive button. An example of this was when we were exploring the science pathway. You may remember that if the kids clicked on a frog, it took them to a video. To do an interactive picture, it's really similar to embedding a hyperlink. hyperlink. We're gonna go ahead and insert a picture. Now this image can be one from your computer, or it can be one that you snag from the internet. So maybe in this activity, I'm gonna use this little picture to get them to whatever it is that they need to do next. In the example we built, or the ELA playlist, I had them answer some questions in Google Jamboard. I could have used a picture instead of a hyperlink to get them there. You're gonna wanna make sure you do at least add some text. Click the picture to complete the activity, so they know that's how they're going to be able to get to wherever they need to go next. To make the picture into an interactive button, you're gonna bring up whatever website you want them to go to. You can link them to one of the slides that's already in the pathways, and you can just link that picture to one of the slides that's in your learning pathway. If it's on a different page, like a Jamboard or a Padlet or a Google document, you're just gonna embed the hyperlink to that. So let's say that we wanna use that Jamboard that we used in our example that we built last week. I'm just wanting to make sure that anyone on the internet with this link can edit. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to edit the document. I'm just going to take the link and I'm going to copy it and come back over to my pathway. Once I have the picture selected, now I can go click my little chain link and embed the web address to that Jamboard right in the box and hit apply. And now this picture has become an interactive button. So when they click the picture, it takes them to where you want them to go. When you click the picture, that's basically the same as highlighting text to then be able to go to that next step where you create your hyperlink. In the science pathway, you saw that we had created a Venn diagram that the students were going to watch a video and then fill out the Venn diagram. I want to show you how to make a digital paper. So if we're going to create a Venn diagram, I'm going to go to the shapes. I'm just going to do a very basic one, and I'm going to take the fill out, and I can keep the border, but I'll make it a little thicker. And then I'm just going to copy and paste that circle so I have two identical circles. At this point, if you were just to leave this how it is and send it out to your students, when they come in to type their text, they can also move things around. That is an issue. So to get around that, you can take a screenshot of the slide. On a Mac, that would be Command, Shift, and 4. I'm not sure of the shortcut for a PC, but I do know that you can take a screenshot with the snipper tool. Now you can see my picture is down here, and I'm going to swipe it out. Mine goes straight to my desktop so that I can just grab them off of there. Now what I'm going to do is make a new slide, and I'm going to go to the background, and I'm going to upload that picture as the background of the slide. So I choose image, and you've got all these choices, but because I just took that picture and it went to my desktop, I want to upload it from my device, and there it is. And I'm going to open it, and I'm done. And now this has become the background. The kids are not going to be able to manipulate that. After I know that I have my slide the way that I want it, I just get rid of my draft version so that I'm only left with the one I want the kids to have. Now I can come in and just do my little text boxes, and we're just going to copy and paste that. Make sure you smush your text box so that it will be the right size in the areas that you want them to type in. And then we can just move our things around. So now when we share this with our students, they can get in and they can type, but they can't move the actual Venn diagram. So any worksheet you have, you can upload it as the background to a slide, and then that will make it so that they cannot move any of the little pieces you don't want them to be able to move. Okay, so now remember, when you share a Google slide, you just need to make sure you come up to the yellow share button. Right here it says that it's restricted, so we want to make sure that we change that. Go to the little drop down, and that anyone with the link can have it. When you actually go to share your pathway with your students, you want to make sure, like we talked about last week, that you are erasing all the way up to the edit and getting rid of that and adding the word copy. This would then be the link that you share because it forces each of the kids to get their own copy. So after you create your pathway, you want to make sure that you're sharing the link to the pathway. You're sharing it so that anyone with the link can have it, and that it's going to force them to each get a copy. That way each student gets their own pathway. The last thing I'm going to show you quickly just in Google Slides is how I did the little verb sort as well as the picture sort. Very similar to the way we just did the Venn diagram. We're going to come in and just insert a table, and we're just going to make a really simple one. Like let's say we just do true and false sort. Okay, I'm going to just take the lines and make them a little darker. I like to put a little color in the place where my headings are going to go. To make it quick and easy, I'm going to change the font and the spacing in the paragraph for both of them because I know I want them both in the middle. This will be a math sort. So I'm gonna put some number sentences on the screen, and the kids are gonna be able to move them around and sort them into these true and false boxes. So I'm gonna grab a text box in the middle. We want our font to be a little bit bigger for sure. 3 times 5 equals 15. You can leave it like this, or you can make it look more like a little sticker if you fill the back of it. So you can add some color in the back of this. And you can even add a border. I'm just gonna move this over here because we wanna make our table a little bit bigger. You know I like to save time because teachers do not have time to be messing around with things. So we're gonna copy and we're gonna paste this one. And now we have a new one that we can just change. We want to make sure that the kids can't come in and change all of this stuff on us. We're going to take some screenshots. So first, I'm going to take a screenshot of the sorting table. I'm also going to take some screenshots of these little guys. Now I can do a new slide that will be blank. And now I can start with my background because I don't want the kids to be able to move that table around. So I'm going to choose a new background, choose image, and I'm uploading it from my computer. And now I have a table that my friends cannot move around. I want to now bring in number sentences for them to sort. And I took screenshots of those also because I don't want them to be able to change them and accidentally erase them and tell me now they can't do their assignment. Now I'm not uploading those as a background this time because I don't want them to be the background. I want them to just be a bunch of little pictures that they can move around. So I'm just gonna go to insert an image. And I can see them all here. And so I'm gonna just select the first one and hold my shift button down and come down to the very last one I want and select all of them so that I can just bring them right all in at the same time. I'm gonna keep them all selected so that I can make them smaller, and then that way they're all going to be the same size as I make them smaller. And then once I click on them individually, I can move them around. I just like to keep my numbers off to the side. You know, you can use this side or this side of the screen. You can fill them up and have many more number sentences for the kids to work with, but then they're just gonna come around and they're gonna drag into the true or false. If you wanted on the bottom, you could do a self-checking, click here to check your answers. We could easily create an answer key by just copying and pasting this slide after you as the teacher do the activity correctly and then link it to this activity just like we did before. Back to my learning path. Let's get rid of the draft slide. So after you do the activity and you create a copy of it to serve as your answer key, it's a good idea to then label this one as being the answer key. When you give your students the actual document that you want them to manipulate, you would want to move all of the pieces back to the side so that you don't hand them an activity that you've already done for them. So that's just an example of a sort with a self-check option. So next, let's take a look at Google Jamboard. To find Jamboard, you go back to your waffle, and Jamboard looks like this. Once you are in your Jamboard, you're going to go down here to this little plus sign in the corner, and you're going to click that. And now you have an untitled jam. So you can start by titling it. So let's create this Jamboard as a learning reflection opportunity. So I'm going to go down to the text box and start a new text box. So we want to ask questions about their work, things like, what part did you find most difficult? There. Now, if I want to add another reflection question, I'm going to come up to the arrow, and now I'm on the second slide. And now I can ask a new question. What are you most proud of? And then I can just keep hitting this arrow to create more slides for more questions. When the kids come in to answer your questions, they're going to hit this little thing that looks like a sticky note, and it actually is called a sticky note. So they're going to click it, and they can choose different sticky note colors, and then they can type in the box. and then they're going to save their answer. And then kids just come in and then they continue to fill the page with sticky notes. Now these 3 dots are where things can come in and get deleted and duplicated and all of that. So we teach the kids that if they have to move someone's sticky note over to make room for theirs, that we don't go to the 3 dots. We make sure that we touch it in the middle to move it, because otherwise the 3 dots, that's how sticky notes disappear. So there are a lot of other things that you can do with Google Jamboard, and this would be a whole nother video all on its own, but I really just wanted to show you the way that we used it for the purposes of the pathways that we explored, just for the sake of saving some time on this video. Another tool we looked at was Google Forms, which is probably something that many of you are familiar with. I just really want to quickly show you the way that I used the Google Form for the student pathways. I use Google Forms as a brain check and then also as a self-reflection. There are lots of different things you can do with Google Forms, but just like Jamboard, that will be another video that I do in the future. They are actually really cool for a lot of things. I always start out by just going to a blank one, and I'm just going to title it, let's just call this one a brain check, and you can put in directions here if you want to, like answer the questions, and this is where I would type in my question. So if we look at this box over here, it gives you all of these different things you can do. So like you could have kids type a short answer. You could have it open so they can do a long paragraph, multiple choice, check boxes, drop downs, all kinds of like where they're rating things on a scale even. So there's a lot of different things. But again, just quickly trying to show you how we used it for the pathways. We keep it on multiple choice, then you can put the choices to entertain. Now you want to just make sure that you click this little button over so that it's required, or else it won't make them actually answer the question. And then you can come up to the little plus sign and it will give you for your next question. Then when you actually share the form with your students, first you want to come up to the little gear for the settings, take off that it's restricted. We don't want it to be restricted, and then save it. And then make sure that you are not sharing the editable version. I know this is in the editable version by a couple of ways. First, up here, it says edit in the address. Next, I see all the tools that like I can use. So this tells me this is the version that can have edits, and we don't want our kids to have that or they'll be writing over each other. So I'm gonna go to the little eyeball, which is the preview, and this is the link I would share. I'll show you the difference one more time. So if I go back over here, you can see the tools are there and up here, but then when we go to their version, all of that's gone. So now we're going to move away from Google. We're going to check out some of those other tools that were embedded into the Fun Friday hyperdocument, all the may-dos that the kids could do. Wonderopolis is a website that is just where kids can come and type in questions about things they're wondering about, which is totally amazing. They have a wonder of the day, but you can search right here for anything you want. So like, why does the moon glow? And they will come up with whatever they have that is related to that question. Sometimes they have exactly what the kids are looking for, sometimes they don't. When you click on the article, there are some guiding questions that they start with, and then they have some videos and other pictures over here that are related from other places. You can see that some of the words in the article are yellow, and that's because if you hover over it, they will have the definitions, and then our struggling readers can actually opt to listen to it. It's a little robotic sounding, but it does read the article to the students. Down here, they have something called Wonder Words, and these are like what the vocabulary words would be, and then they can even take the Wonder Word Challenge where they have to drag a word to the definition. There are other things that they can do here, so add your question to the Wonder Bank. So if kids are wondering something that's not in here, they can add it to the bank and see if Wonderopolis will answer their question. Then they can come here to explore wonders. If they're not sure what they want to ask, they can just explore all the wonders. And then Wonders with Charlie is a little YouTube show, but it's all different wonders. So they're video versions basically of the articles that kids might find. Next, we can go to Khan Academy. So Khan Academy is free, and as a teacher, you can sign up and you can invite a classroom. Basically, the way that it works is that it's all personalized learning for all age levels. You can see all of these different courses that you can assign to your classroom. So there's math and science science, arts and humanities, reading and language arts, and you can choose these different courses for your students to take. These could even be assignments in your must-dos as well. There's a lot to this website. You would be able to get a lot out of it for sure. Another thing we looked at was IXL. It's broken down into grade levels, so you can choose a grade level, and when you click on it, you can see all of these different topics and then the different lessons that are under them. If you look up here on the top, you can select language arts or science, social studies. You can even do these skill plans where you are basically planning lessons for your students. You can have your students just get in here and be working on these just different lessons. So you can share this website with your students. I just made sure that I was on the page that I wanted them to go to. If we go back to the home page, I don't want to bring my kids here because they're never going to know what to choose and where to go. So I'm going to directly take them to the page I want them to be. If I wanted to have them do math, then I would just make sure that I was on this page when I shared the link. So it says grade 3 and it's math already. So then that way the kids aren't having to choose their grade level and choose the right subject area. Next is Storyline Online, which is a bunch of read alouds that have been read by different famous people. You can search for read alouds. If you click here, it will show you all the books, and they are alphabetized so that you can look up and to see if they have certain books that you're looking for. But they have a lot of different books. Most of these books have a teacher and a parent resource, and this is an example of a parent one, and you will see that it is jam-packed with things that help students to really make connections from the text to the world around them. There are different activities like writing and such, but there's also creative arts and food activities, science experiments, physical activities that they can do, and even suggested places for parents to be able to take their children just to really help them to see the world around them and how it relates to the story. Now we're going to take a look at But Why, a podcast for curious kids. I love to include podcasts in my students' learning. I'm a huge advocate of podcasts because I myself am a podcast junkie, and when I think of all the things that I've learned from podcasts, I think it's important for us to be able to show our students they can access information through podcasting as well. They can also share their learning through podcasts. So if they go to the website, they can scroll down and just listen to all of these different topics. It's very similar to what Wonderopolis is. I would say it's like the podcast version of it. That's what it sort of reminds me of. Brainson.org is another podcast, and it's just very similar to the But Why podcast and a Wonderopolis. So it's just another great way for them to access information utilizing the tech world around them. Another thing I want to show you is an app called Pics. First, you want to start by deciding what you want your talking subject to be. So in that case, it was a fox. But you could choose literally anything, any picture that you want. You can make it talk. My go-to website for stock photos is called Pexels.com. This is where I got that picture of the fox. So let's say that we want to choose a bear this time. I've got all these different bear pictures that I can choose from, but one thing just to keep in mind is that you want to choose one that's kind of like close up so that you can see the mouth pretty good, because that's going to be the part that you make look like it's talking, and it will just be easier to create your video if the subject is a little bit closer. So I'm actually going to choose the one right up here in the corner, and I'm just going to download it, and then I'm going to save that image. And now it's right in my camera roll with the rest of my photos. So let's head back over to the Pics.
Duck, duck, moose.
Welcome to Pics.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to my gallery, and here's where I have old photos that I was playing around with. You can see there's my little fox. I'm going to hit the little camera button, and that's going to take it to my camera, and I'm gonna choose my bear, and then I'm just going to follow the prompts. So I'm going to hit next up in the right corner. You can see that there's a little microphone and it's crossed off right now. That's because we're going to use that to talk, but we're not ready yet. We're going to create the section of the picture that we want to open and close for the mouth to talk. And you notice the little hand with the dotted lines. We're going to use our finger to kind of highlight the section of the bear that we want to become the space that opens and closes. So I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to start on the mouth, and it does do a nice little close-up so you can kind of see. The line only will go straight, so it's not perfect. It won't totally follow the shape of the mouth, but that's okay. It still is going to look pretty fun. Once you feel like you have it in a pretty good spot, you just let go. Maybe up a little high, so I'm going to kind of try that again. There, that's fine. Now I can hit the microphone button and record my message. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope that you're learning a lot of cool stuff that you're excited to use. And now we can check it. it by hitting the play button. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope that you're learning a lot of cool stuff that you're excited to use. Now, the bear looks like it's sort of talking out the side of its mouth a little bit. If I'm not happy with that, I can go back and fix it just by clicking on the picture again, and maybe I'll start it up a little higher and it won't look so weird maybe. Then I can try hitting play again. Hey guys, thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope that you're learning a lot of cool stuff that you're excited to use. You can fix the mouth without having to fix the voice part. If you want to fix the voice part, you can. You just click on the microphone again, and then it will allow you to re-record your message. But let's say we're happy with this, so I'm going to click on next. And here's where you can add different filters. You can add different props like glasses if you want to, little glasses on the bear. It depends on how silly you want to get. You can add text. You can do different frames and borders around it if you want to get fancy with those sorts of things. If you are happy with all of that, click next again. And at this point, you can save it. And when you want to save it, you just go to the little round circle on the right. Looks like an iPad with an arrow pointing down for the download. And it's just going to put it straight to your camera roll. Once you're in your camera roll, what I do is I just put it straight into my Google Drive because that's where I'm going to get it from when I want to embed it into my pathway. So I'm just going to put it straight to my drive, save, and upload. Once you have done that, then it's ready. It's going to be right in your Google Drive waiting for you to put into your pathway.
Okay, so that concludes this mini workshop on student learning pathways. I hope you're excited and have ideas and can see the value in how these student pathways is an innovative approach to differentiation and blended learning. I would really love if you could take a few moments to leave some comments so that you can share your thoughts and ideas about how you're going to implement or use student pathways in your own classroom. Thank you so much for joining me again today and watching this video all the way to the end. If you found today's content helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Teaching Without a Book channel so that you're not missing out on any innovative ideas. Okay, that's all for today. Now go use those creative brains and transform education. See you next week.